Have you ever wondered how well you truly know the person sleeping next to you? We share our homes, our secrets, and our lives with them, trusting completely. But what if that trust was the very weapon being used against you? What if the person who vowed to care for you was instead meticulously planning your end? This is not just a story. It's a chilling reminder that sometimes the most dangerous threat isn't a stranger lurking in the shadows. It's the one who shares your bed, your meals, and your most intimate moments. Sit back and listen closely, because the line between love and lethal obsession can be terrifyingly thin. The doctor's hands were trembling. I noticed it immediately, not the subtle kind of tremor from too much caffeine, but a distinct, visible shake that seemed to originate from a place of deep-seated dread. Her fingers, usually so steady and precise, fumbled slightly as they scrolled through my test results on the glossy screen of her computer. The sterile, quiet hum of the clinic room felt suddenly oppressive, amplifying the silence between us. She looked at me, her eyes darting back to the screen, then settling on my face again with an intensity that made my stomach clench. Her complexion, normally a healthy rose, had drained to a parchment-like pallor. For a heart-stopping moment, my mind leaped to the darkest conclusion. Cancer. A terminal diagnosis. I had been mentally preparing myself for bad news for months, steeling myself for a battle I feared was coming. I was ready for that, or so I thought. What I wasn't ready for was the surreal, chilling sequence of events that actually unfolded next. Dr. Walsh, a woman in her late 50s known for her unflappable calm, stood up so abruptly her ergonomic chair wheeled back and bumped softly against the cabinet. "Aya," she said, her voice tighter than usual. "I need you to come with me. Now." She didn't lead me to another exam room. Instead, we walked down a short, hushed corridor lined with framed medical degrees to her private office, a small space cluttered with journals, family photos, and a thriving peace lily. The normality of it all felt grotesquely out of place. Without a word, she closed the heavy wooden door behind us. The click of the lock was deafening. Then, with deliberate movements, she pulled the cord on the vertical blinds, shutting out the gray Portland afternoon and the view of the parking lot. The room was plunged into a dim, artificial twilight, lit only by her desk lamp. When she finally turned to face me, the expression on her face was one I knew, in that instant, I would carry to my grave. It wasn't professional concern. It wasn't sympathetic sadness. It was raw, unadulterated fear. A doctor, afraid. She gestured for me to sit in the worn leather chair opposite her desk, but she remained standing, as if too agitated to settle. She leaned forward, her hands gripping the edge of the desk, her knuckles white. "Aya," she began, her voice dropping to a whisper so low I had to strain to hear it. It was the kind of whisper reserved for confessing a terrible secret. "What I am about to tell you is of the utmost seriousness. You need to listen very carefully, and you need to do exactly as I say." I nodded, my throat too dry to speak. My heart was a frantic bird trapped in the cage of my ribs. "You need to leave your house today," she said, each word measured and heavy. "Do not pack a suitcase. Do not tell your husband. Do not change anything about your daily routine until you are safely out of that environment. Do you understand?" The words didn't compute. "Leave my house? Don't tell Glenn?" It sounded like dialogue from a bad thriller. "Dr. Walsh, I don't... What's going on? What did the test show?" Instead of answering directly, she slowly turned her computer monitor toward me. On the screen was my comprehensive blood panel. Her finger, still trembling slightly, pointed to a specific line item among the dense rows of data. "Elevated arsenic levels," she said flatly. "Significantly elevated. Not acute poisoning, this isn't from a single large dose. These levels are consistent with chronic, low-dose exposure over a period of several months. Someone has been administering arsenic to you, Aya." Slowly, methodically, the world tipped on its axis. The air left my lungs in a silent rush. Arsenic. The word echoed in the hollowed-out space of my mind. It was an ancient poison, a thing of Victorian novels and historical dramas, Not something that happened to a 31-year-old senior accountant from Portland in the 21st century. My blood didn't run cold. It seemed to boil, then freeze, then evaporate altogether. A violent, visceral heat flashed through me, followed by a numbness so profound I felt detached from my own body.
I'm Aya Carnes.
I'm 31 years old. I work as a senior accountant at a mid-sized firm in downtown Portland, Oregon. A job built on order, logic, and tangible proof. I've been married for 4 years to Glenn Reeves, a successful and charming pharmaceutical sales representative. And for the past 5 months, I have felt like I was slowly, inexorably disintegrating. It started not with a bang, but with a pervasive, soul-deep fatigue. This wasn't the regular tiredness after a long week or a poor night's sleep. This was an exhaustion that felt cellular, a weight that pressed down on my bones and clouded my thoughts. I'd stand in front of my closet and forget what I was looking for. I'd blank on my own phone number, my PIN, the name of a client I'd spoken to that morning. My mind, once sharp and reliable, had become a sieve. Then came the nausea, a constant low-grade roiling in my stomach, a persistent seasickness on dry land. Food lost its appeal. The smell of Glenn's morning coffee, which I used to love, would now send me retching to the bathroom. My hair, my thick, chestnut brown hair that had always been my pride, began to fall out in alarming clumps. I'd find nests of it on my pillow, tangled in the shower drain, clinging to the bristles of my brush. Each handful was a silent scream. The brain fog grew thicker. I couldn't concentrate on spreadsheets. Numbers would swim and blur. I'd lose my train of thought mid-sentence. Conversations from the day before became elusive fragments. My joints ached with a dull, persistent throb. I was 31, in what should have been the prime of my life, yet I felt ancient, frail, and utterly broken. I became a fixture in waiting rooms. Over 5 months, I saw 3 different doctors. A general practitioner blamed stress and modern life, suggesting meditation apps. An internist diagnosed borderline anemia and prescribed iron supplements that churned my stomach. An endocrinologist hinted delicately at the possibility of anxiety, of my body manifesting psychological unrest. They ran tests, blood work, thyroid panels, vitamin checks. The results always came back inconclusive, with minor anomalies easily dismissed. I was sent home each time with bottles of vitamins, platitudes about self-care, and a growing, terrifying sense that I was a ghost in my own life, fading away while everyone around me shrugged. I even started to blame myself. Maybe it was turning 30. Maybe my body was just giving up. Apparently, the welcome to your 30s package does not include arsenic poisoning. That's more of a your husband is a psychopath bonus feature. And through it all, there was Glenn, my devoted, caring, picture-perfect husband. Glenn took me to every single appointment. He sat in those sterile waiting rooms, holding my hand, his grip firm and reassuring. He asked the doctors detailed, intelligent questions, his brow furrowed in concentration. He took notes on his phone about my symptoms, about medication suggestions, about follow-up tests. He was the model of supportive partnership. The nurses adored him. One receptionist, an older woman with kind eyes, had leaned over her desk and whispered to me, "You hang on to that one, honey. You don't find men like that every day." I believed her. I believed all of it. In my weakened, foggy state, his constant presence was my anchor. He was my caretaker, my advocate, my rock. The guilt I felt for being such a burden was only mitigated by the overwhelming gratitude for his unwavering love. Now, sitting in Dr. Walsh's dim office, that entire narrative shattered into a million jagged pieces. The anchor was not holding me steady. It was dragging me down into the depths. Dr. Walsh began asking questions in that same urgent whisper. Who prepares most of your meals? Does anyone have regular, unsupervised access to your food or drinks? Your vitamins? Is there anyone at all, who might want to harm you? And then, it hit me. The realization didn't dawn. It crashed over me like a tsunami, violent and total, washing away the last remnants of my old life. The smoothies. Glenn had started making me a protein smoothie every single morning, almost exactly 5 months ago, right when the first tendrils of fatigue had begun to curl around me. He said he was worried about my nutrition, that I was picking at my food, that I needed a concentrated boost of energy to start my day. "Let me take care of this for you," he'd said, his blue eyes full of tender concern. He'd blend spinach, kale, protein powder, some weird-tasting superfood supplements he got through his work, and almond milk. The result was a thick, murky green concoction that tasted awful, like someone had blended lawn clippings with virtuous intentions. I had grimaced at the first sip. He'd laughed, a warm, affectionate sound. "It's an acquired taste, honey, but it's good for you, for us." I drank it, every single morning, because my husband made it with love. He'd stand there, watching me take the first few sips, a soft smile on his lips, before kissing my forehead and heading out for work. Except it wasn't love. It was arsenic. Dr. Walsh confirmed my silent horror. "A pharmaceutical sales representative," she mused, her voice grim. "He would have a fundamental understanding of biochemistry, of dosages, of pharmacokinetics, how substances interact with the human body. He wouldn't need to search shady internet forums. The knowledge is part of his profession. The doses in your system, they're carefully calculated. Sublethal. Designed to make you chronically, mysteriously ill. Not to kill you quickly. He wanted your decline to look natural. A tragic young wife wasting away from some elusive, undiagnosable syndrome. And he would be the heartbroken, devoted widower, left with the sympathy and the—" She trailed off, but the implication hung in the air. The life insurance. The thought surfaced ugly and clear. I thought of all those doctor's appointments. Glenn, holding my hand, performing concern with Oscar-worthy sincerity for every medical professional we encountered. He wasn't supporting me through an illness. He was curating it. He was establishing a rock-solid alibi, building a documented history of being the desperate husband trying everything to save his beloved wife. He was weaving his lie into the very fabric of my medical records. Dr. Walsh gave me explicit, step-by-step instructions, writing a few things down on a prescription pad and sliding it to me, her personal email and a name, Detective Maria Reyes. "Do not change your behavior at home. Do not let him know you suspect anything. Do not suddenly stop drinking the smoothies. He will notice. Your first priority is to contact this detective. Use my email. I am concerned he may have access to your shared accounts." I walked out of that clinic on legs that felt like they were made of wet sand. The late afternoon light seemed too bright, too normal. My phone buzzed in my purse. A text from Glenn. "How did the appointment go, honey? I made your favorite dinner. Lasagna. Can't wait to see you. Love you." I stared at those glowing words on the screen. Love you. This man. This man I had married 4 years ago in a sun-dappled garden, surrounded by friends and family. This man I had built a home with, shared my dreams with, trusted with my vulnerabilities, my body, my life. He was in our house right now, probably setting the table, humming along to the radio, a picture of domestic bliss. He was waiting for me with dinner, with a smile, and with another deadly smoothie already planned for tomorrow morning. The dissonance was so profound it triggered a near-physical nausea. I had to go home. I had to walk through that front door, smell the garlic bread, look into his eyes, and pretend. I had to sit across from him at our reclaimed wood dining table and eat his lasagna. I had to kiss him goodnight and let him wrap his arms around me in our bed. I had to perform normalcy while the man I called my husband was patiently, deliberately, poisonously ending my life. My fingers trembled as I typed a reply, mirroring his false affection. "On my way. Can't wait to see you too." Then I got into my car, locked the doors, and screamed. A raw, guttural, silent scream that tore from my throat until it was scraped bare. I pounded the steering wheel until my palms hurt. The storm of rage, betrayal, and terror left me shaking and empty. But in that emptiness, a new resolve began to crystallize. Cold, hard, and sharp as a diamond. I walked through my front door that evening with a smile plastered on my face and murder in my heart. Not his murder, my survival. But to survive, I had to become the actress of my life, playing the role of a dying wife with flawless precision. Glenn was in the kitchen, his back to me, stirring the rich, red sauce for the lasagna. The familiar, comforting scent of tomatoes, basil, and browned beef filled the air, a cruel parody of comfort. He turned, and that warm, caring smile I'd fallen in love with years ago lit up his face. "Hey, you," he said, coming over to kiss my cheek. "How are you feeling? How was it?" I let my shoulders slump a little, injecting a practiced weariness into my voice. "Tired. Always tired. The doctor said it's probably just a more persistent anemia. Nothing to panic about, but she wants me on some new, stronger supplements." I recited the lie smoothly, looking at him through what I hoped were convincingly dull eyes. He nodded, his expression the perfect mix of concern and relief. "Well, that's something, at least. We'll get you on those supplements right away. I did some research on high-quality iron and B-complex brands last night. Always the problem solver. Always so devoted." The bile rose in my throat. I swallowed it down with a smile, bringing me glasses of water and fluffing my pillows. "Just rest, my love," he'd murmur. "Save your strength." The man deserved an Oscar, or a prison cell. He was about to get one of them. As the days passed under this grotesque charade, I started digging. The fog in my mind was clearing, replaced by a hyper-focused, icy clarity. My profession was my weapon now. I knew numbers. I knew patterns. I knew how to follow a paper trail until it bled truth. I had given Glenn control of our joint finances about 2 years into our marriage. He had suggested it so gently, so logically. "You work such long, stressful hours, Aya. You're carrying the mental load of the house, your job. Let me take this off your plate. You deserve to come home and relax, not worry about bills and spreadsheets." I had seen it as an act of love, a sharing of burdens. It was, in reality, the first strategic move in a campaign of control. One evening, while Glenn was at a late client dinner, I slipped into our home office. My heart hammered against my ribs, but my hands were steady as I opened the filing cabinet. It took me less than 20 minutes to find what I had been blind to for years. There, nestled between our mortgage documents and car insurance papers, was a life insurance policy. On me, the face value, $750,000. Glenn Reeves was listed as the sole irrevocable beneficiary. The date of issue stole my breath. It was taken out 10 months ago, 4 months before my first symptom, before the first morning smoothie. This wasn't a crime of passion or a sudden, desperate act. This was a cold, calculated blueprint developed over nearly a year. He had been planning my murder before I even felt unwell. The folder shook in my hands. I took photos with my phone, the flash illuminating the damning numbers in the quiet room. I kept digging, accessing our bank accounts with the skills of my trade. I found a series of small, regular transfers to a savings account I didn't recognize, under the name GR Holdings. Over 8 months, nearly $40,000 had been funneled into it, cleverly categorized in our budget as professional development, business expenses, and tax buffer. To the average eye, it might have looked like prudent savings. But I had audited corporations that tried harder to hide malfeasance. Glenn's amateur hour scheme was like an elephant trying to hide behind a lamppost. Then I followed him. He claimed he was meeting a difficult client for a dinner to smooth things over. But there was a subtle, unfamiliar eagerness in his voice when he told me, a gleam in his eye that had nothing to do with work. 10 minutes after his taillights disappeared, I was in my car, following at a cautious distance. He drove to an intimate, upscale Italian restaurant in the Pearl District, a place we'd never been to together.